Hello.
Hello,
Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, great. Zoom claimed my audio device was not working properly, but clearly it is not correct about that.
Mm,
Hi, Kevin.
The
Give it a couple more minutes here in case anyone else shows up. How's the weather in Oklahoma?
it got real cold real fast.
Yeah, same here.
It was 80 something yesterday, and today it's 50 something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, likewise. It's below freezing this morning.
I
Where
hope
do you
that's the
live?
last 80s. It's been so hot all fall. It's like, man, finally get some 50 degrees, 50s or 60 something.
Yeah. Where do you
Like in the
live,
middle of
El?
November, I'm turning on the air conditioner at night.
I live in Seattle.
Okay,
Hmm.
just went out to Seattle for the first time for WasmCon earlier this year.
Mm, mm,
Nice place.
it is. Yeah, it is a bit cold here today too, 48 or something.
Yep.
So
Does it snow much in Seattle?
not as much as in the Midwest and some parts of the Northeast.
Yeah. I figured that being close to the ocean might affect that somehow. Not
Hmm.
sure which way, but no.
Yeah, this the ocean have a lot of mountains around here too. They all usually get all the snow. We get some, but not enough to, make life a chaos for long. So.
Yeah. Maybe give it 30 more seconds here. Get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. People can drop in if they're a little late. So I didn't have much on the agenda. I guess we can start with status updates in case anybody's been working on anything relevant here. Um, I'll go first. Let's see, what have I been doing? Can't remember when I did this relative to the last meeting, but I did release a new version of Componentized Pi that updates it to the WASM Time 14 snapshot of WASI Preview 2, which which also involves versioning, and Componentized Pi didn't have support for versioning, and updated the examples and so on. So that's released. And that also included, I needed to update the example to support resources for WASI HTTP, and that required, if you may, as you may or may not know, the component model requires that if you have child resources of basically a parent-child relationship between resources, such as you often have in WASI HTTP, where you can have a like outgoing request, and then you can also have child handles, like the body of that request is a child handle, and then the stream is a child handle of the body, and you have to make sure that you don't drop those in the wrong order, or else the runtime will trap. And so you can't just rely on garbage collection to clean up after you, which is kind of the default mode. If you want to make sure that you are actually dropping these things in the right order, you have to explicitly do that. And for the time being, this is going to get to an agenda item later. I just added a function called drop to each of these resources that you could just call and then just not use it anymore. But apparently the right way to do that is this with statement syntax. So maybe you guys can kind of fill me in on that. But right now you can do it. It's just probably not at all idiomatic. And then the only thing I'm working on is I'm just in the process of updating WASI-virt, which is, if you don't know about it, is a way to essentially wrap a component in either a virtual file system or an entire virtual WASI environment, with either restricted access to the host environment variables or no access at all, and just like a fake set of environment variables or whatever, which can be useful if you've got, say, a component that you want to maybe it's written by a third party and you want to like really sandbox it, give it fewer privileges than some other component that you're going to compose with it. And anyway, it hasn't been updated to use resources, so it's not useful with the latest version of WASI. So I'm trying to address that. That's all I got. You guys have anything?
Not really. I'm still waiting for preview 2 to kind of settle, and then I'm probably gonna go through and start trying to compile a bunch of packages, see what comes up. I still haven't put that WASIC stuff in WASI Live C, and I figured once I start compiling packages, I'll start finding what causes problems still, with WASI, and then start filling in those gaps at that point.
Speaking of which, I'm actually either next week or the following week, I'm going to start working on adding socket support to WASI libc. So hopefully, I don't know if that overlaps at all with the WASIC stuff that you're referring to, but we could actually have real implementations of that stuff.
That'll obsolete some of the stuff. I have them all stubbed out to do nothing other than return an error. So
yeah. So I mean, feel free to add that stuff in, and then I'll just override it probably. If depending on who gets there first. Elle, do you have anything or?
No, I do not.
Cool.
I have not been working on anything Python related for a while. I'm just a fly on the wall for now.
Sure. No worries. Okay, so that's status updates. And so yeah, maybe we'll just roll right into the resource lifetimes stuff. I haven't even looked at, I just know that Brett mentioned in the guest languages SIG meeting earlier this week that there was this thing called context manager and with statements. And so I can do my own research on this, so you guys don't have to. If assuming you know the details on it, you don't have to give me all the details. I can figure it out myself. But I guess my high level questions for you guys, if you don't mind me asking, are like, how do you define a destructor or whatever the term is for a class? Is there like some double underscore thing that you specify, or?
yeah, a context manager just adds, I think it's just 2 methods.
Okay.
Double under enter and double under exit.
Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
One gets called when you create it, and one gets called when it gets destroyed. So
Makes sense.
it's
Okay.
pretty simple.
Yeah,
And I can just use that instances of that class with with statement, and it'll just work. Sounds like.
Yeah, if you want it to actually return an object, the enter double under or dunder enter method has to return. So if you say with something as foo, that foo would have to be actually returned from the dunder enter method.
Okay.
The dunder exit method just cleans up, and exit has a few parameters, and it has like 4 different parameters, and I can't even remember what they all do. I usually ignore them most of the time.
Okay. So in this particular case, let's see. I'm going to call into the host to get one of these child resources, say the request body, and so I'll have this handle. And so is it at the point when I'm trying to think. It's gonna give me back an instance already of this thing, and I guess that the class that the componentized pi is generating for kind of lifting this what's ultimately just an integer to be the handle to a resource that's been exported by the host. And so the bindings generation, I'm going to need to add an enter and an exit. I'm trying to think, do I want that enter function to return anything? Or I guess here's a better question. Is enter a method or is it a static method? Like, does it take a self or does it not?
Yeah, it's an instance method. So I'm
Instance
not
method. So
sure.
it does take self.
Yeah. So
Okay.
in your context, I'm not really sure how to do it because the with statement is what actually
Like
does the
gives you the thing.
enter, and also I presume calls the exit
Yeah.
when you get out of that. But if you're creating this resource somehow inside the component, but expecting the exit to get called outside of that, I'm not sure how that would work.
Well, no, the eggs. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, I may have to study it a bit more. I mean, I I can I can line up, like I can create the body. So I've got some code. It's basically like I'm doing, say, an outbound HTTP request, and I want to um I create the request, and then I call a function that gets the body from that request, which then I can get an outbound stream from that thing. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure that the stream gets disposed of before the body gets disposed of, and the body gets disposed of before the outbound request gets disposed of. Um, and yeah, and so I guess I had imagined that I would have at least two nested with
Yeah.
statements there. The innermost being for the stream, the next one being for the well, I guess I have three. Let's say three. The innermost for the stream, the middle one for the body, and then the outermost for the request. And these are all handles that I called to the host to give me the handle. Can I just do a with statement that doesn't really do anything within the enter, because I don't have anything to do at enter time? Like, could I have just a dummy enter that just doesn't do anything, and then but it's exit where actually something
Yeah.
needs to happen?
I mean, yeah, the enter doesn't have to do anything. I
Sure,
mean,
sure.
unless it should return an object if somebody does with something as foo, if that's a requirement, if you even need that. If you don't need to set any result to some variable, then you just
Yeah.
don't. Enter
So
just does returns none. And
okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll look into it. Thank you. That is helpful. So if we're done with that, then next topic, I mentioned this on Zulip. I thought it was interesting. I guess yesterday or recently, someone had posted a lengthy article on the trials and tribulations of getting SciPy building for Python 3.12 on Windows, where apparently they had been using some. I skimmed the article and I sort of skipped to the punchline, which was that they ended up being able to use the latest LLVM 17 version of Flang to build SciPy on Windows and get the whole test suite passing. And so that piqued my curiosity, obviously, because anything that's LLVM based has the potential, at least, to be able to output WebAssembly. And I felt like up until this point, we had sort of given up on Flang as like, yeah, that's the old thing, and now L4tran is the new thing, and that's got the most promise. But I wonder if it sounds like from that what I read in that article, big strides have been made, and now it's actually reached, as of LLVM 17, is reached sort of a point of stability. It's like a supported thing now. So I'm wondering if one of us should take a deeper look at that and see, answer the question, can we compile SciPy for WebAssembly with Flang 17? And Kevin, I know you've kind of been the one who's dug most into this. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, this is the first I've heard that somebody's actually done that.
Yeah.
I right now I probably wouldn't have time to even look at it
Sure.
until December. I'm actually off quite a bit this month, but
Sure. No
that's
worries.
interesting. It's interesting that they got that far.
Yeah, and I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't mean to imply that you need to be the one to look at this at all, but I just know you have a history with it, and I'm just I didn't know. Have you tried using Flang for this purpose in the past? Maybe an older version, and or anything like
No,
that?
I mean, I haven't done anything specific. I don't know that I've ever actually compiled SciPy from source before, to be honest.
Okay, sure, sure.
I can think of,
Yeah. Okay.
not in recent memory at least.
All right. So yeah, I mean, the main thing I've just wanted to get out of this is, does anybody know of a reason why it just absolutely couldn't work? And if it sounds like nobody does, in which case whoever has bandwidth to look into it, we could do an experiment.
Yeah, no, that does sound promising though.
Yeah, unless it always uses some kind of CPU intrinsics to do any calculation, it should work fine. That's WebAssembly.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I guess one question would be like, is there any sort of like SIMD stuff that it's relying on that has no like portable equivalent, maybe like they've got special code for, x86, special
Yeah.
code for ARM or
You
whatnot.
can either just grab around or just try to build it and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
I think there's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking just, try to build it, see what breaks and,
Mhm.
yeah. Cool. All right, well, that's all I had. We could make this a short meeting if nobody has anything else.
Think of anything else.
All right. Cool. Thanks for joining, everyone. And I'll give you back about 45 minutes.
Right.
Right.
See ya.
Good one.
You too.